Thank you for listening to Paper Girl Podcast. Before we begin, I'd like to provide a content warning. This episode deals with themes including domestic violence, pregnancy loss, miscarriage, and grief. If this is not an episode for you, that is okay. There are plenty of other opportunities to enjoy Paper Girl. If you or someone you know is in an unsafe situation, please call the Domestic Violence Hotline, 1-800-799-SAFE, 1-800-799-7233, or text START to 88788. Thank you so much for listening to Paper Girl. I'm Melody, the host, co-owner of Meadow Market Books in Tulsa, and a writer myself. Today on the podcast, we have Anna Renee, who is a Tulsa poet, and the first guest on Paper Girl to have come in and just brought your work to us. So everybody else we've had on thus far, I reached out to in some capacity, but you're the first person on the podcast that brought your stuff in. So, Anna, if you want to introduce yourself and tell everybody about how you got to Tulsa.
Yes. So, hi, I'm Anna. My husband and I moved from Michigan about 3 years ago. We moved for a job. We're house parents at the Sand Springs home. So we house parent teens and take care of them on top of our two littles. So that's what I do full time. What I also do full time is write. I love writing poetry. I've written poetry since I was 11. Really enjoy being able to express myself and process things that I've been through in healthy ways that don't always require therapy. So,
yeah. So you got your start in poetry at 11. What was the trigger there?
I lost one of my childhood best friends to bacterial meningitis. And I wrote a poem about going to her funeral. So just how that affected me as an 11-year-old was very heavy and very hard to process. So being able to try to work it out on paper was really helpful for me.
So you are not a stranger to grief through poetry.
Not at all. Yeah.
And that's what your collection in Patina is about.
Yes.
Yeah. So let me give the content warning now. Patina is a hard read. With trigger warnings for grief, pregnancy loss, death. It's a hard read. It's one that I'll be honest with you, I haven't read Patina through because it's in chunks.
Yeah.
And so will you take us through the writing process of Patina?
Absolutely. Yeah. So Patina is a book that I wrote primarily for my previous marriage. It lasted just over a year. Within 3 months, he was arrested for 4 counts of domestic violence, 2 counts being knowingly assaulting a pregnant person, and ultimately leading to the death of my baby at 12 weeks. So being able to be removed from that situation and really start processing through EMDR therapy really brought a lot of things up to light, and being able to write about them. It's one thing to process in therapy. It's another to process on paper. And when you do both of them, so many things happen. And it was a lot. It was a lot. I was working at a police station at the time, typing domestic violence reports as I was getting physically abused at the same time. So everything was hitting very close to home. And the day that I called police was the hardest day of my life. I never spoke to him after that again. And it was very much something that I didn't want to do at the time because I was still so attached. So
it's hard. I think coming from that background, you really understand how it's so hard for victims to get out.
Yes. Yes. I have helped a couple of people get out of their own relationships that have been abusive. And it is something that people go back to. And it's hard to watch, but I totally understand that there's that deep bond there that the abuser creates. And it's something that is deeply entrenched in somebody's heart, especially when they think that they love them and they think that the other person loves them back. So being able to break that chain and being able to recognize yourself again is such a hard thing to do, but it's so, so, so rewarding.
Did you continue working at the police station after you got out?
I ended up resigning. I needed to take a step back. I went to work at an old dairy farm that I worked for previously and just took some time and hung around with some goats and really used that time to heal. Animals are such good listeners.
They really are.
Yeah.
On the back of patina, you have the definition of patina, but do you want to take it out for our listeners and kind of why you chose that title? Yeah, you could
get it. Grab my book a second because it's a little bit long. But so, do you want me to? I can read it and then kind of elaborate. So, patina originally is a thin surface layer or shell of varied color and texture, as on copper, developed as the result of age or weathering by exposure to deliberately harsh circumstances. And my definition is a collection of poetry and spoken word pieces that have been written in the middle of storms and sorrow, cheering from mountaintops, stumbling in the dark, crashing, burning, choosing to stand back up for the 1,000th time. This is what it means to have lived and to own your journey as part of your story, but not as your identity. This is what it means to grow deeper and transform through painful circumstances, to embrace the change and lean into the discomfort and sting and rebirth of yourself day after day. This is what it means to heal. This is what it means to grow. This is what it means to catch yourself in a belly laugh at 3 p.m. on a Thursday and realize that you are living past what you thought had shattered you. This is relearning what peace means, wrestling with yet resting in the divine promises of Christ. This is real. This is raw. This is patina. And to speak on, so I'm also a Christian, and I believe that Jesus has really orchestrated my story. And to share part of that, it was a couple days after he had gotten arrested, and I had begun the miscarriage process. I had ran 8 miles down our dirt road. I'm not a runner, but I ran 8 miles, and it was in the middle of summer, and I was yelling at God. I was yelling at him. Why would you do this to me? This is all I've ever wanted. All I've ever wanted to be is a wife and a mom, and I have all this and you're ripping it away from me, and I don't understand why this is happening. Why aren't you listening to me? Why don't you hear me? And a car pulled up alongside me. And I'm very wary of strangers, but a car pulled up and a lady got out and she asked me if I was okay. And I said, no, this is kind of what's going on. And it was mosquito season. So there were so many. And I was talking to her and smacking mosquitoes and talking to her. And it was a very interesting moment. And she just looked at me and said, do you want some bug spray? I have some bug spray. Like, yes, I would love some bug spray. Thank you so much for seeing me. And she sprayed me down and looked at me and said, I'm going to be praying for you. She's like, I can't imagine what you're going through, but I know Jesus works and he's with you. And she drove away and I looked and her bumper sticker said, God answers prayers. And I went, okay. Okay. This is my story, but it's not my identity. It doesn't have to define me. I don't have to sit here and be a victim of domestic violence, a victim of sitting here holding my baby going, oh my gosh, not holding my baby, but holding the loss of my baby going, I can have this again. This is something that I can heal from. And this is something that doesn't have to be the end of my story. This is something that I can use as a tool to help others help others get out, help others maintain a healthy relationship, help others before they even get into a relationship like this. Know the warning signs, know what to look for.
It's powerful. So one of the early poems in Patina is about how to care for others through a miscarriage. Mm-hmm. And you went about it in an incredibly violent way. How has that shaped the way you approach others' loss?
Very gently. Everyone is different, but a lot of the emotions are the same. Being able to tread so carefully, yet understanding so fully what somebody has lost, whether that's just a mom or a mom and a dad together. It's just being able to meet somebody where they are looks very differently when it's a loss of a baby. And sometimes they're going to want a meal, and sometimes they're going to want nothing to do with you. And sometimes you're going to have to respect that. And sometimes they want you to push back a little bit and go, no, I'm here for you. I'm going to come in and give you a hug. And it's so dependent on each person, and being able to know that person and being able to know what they need and meet them where they are. Whether it's on the bathroom floor, at the front door, whatever it looks like, being able to really meet their needs.
You write about spending time with your mom, and I'm not sure if the book is linear like that. Mm-hmm. Do you want to talk a little bit about how your family interacted with you during this really hard part?
Yeah. So at first, my family didn't understand what was going on. Because he had them so brainwashed into thinking everything looked really good, therefore everything was really good. And so there was a little bit of strain at first because I started to withdraw and isolate because he had made me that way. And they didn't understand why I was pulling away, and there was some tension there. And then everything finally broke when everything came to light, and they were very supportive of me, very supportive of my healing journey. My mom would often describe it as putting on a fire suit and going into a burning house with me. She has always been very loyal, my dad as well, but she has done a lot of the work with me to heal from what has happened. So they've been very, very supportive.
The moms, just 10 out of 10. Just to be like transparent, in 2020, I had a miscarriage. Mm-hmm. And my marriage fell apart. And I thankfully didn't have to go through nearly what you did. But like, my mom flew down. That I called her as soon as I got home from the ER. She didn't even know that I was expecting again. And she was at my house the next day. Mm-hmm. And when I finally told her, we're getting a divorce, we've been separated for 3 months, it was just like immediately, how do I help you? What do you need? So mom's taking us through these journeys is like this powerful moment of womanhood. And, despite only having read a few of your poems, I felt that thread of connection. You write about spending time with your mom and kind of this jolt back into reality and a sense of safety and security that you're finding spending time with your mom that I really connected with, that really resonated.
Yeah.
So Patina's a hard read, but let's take it into where you are now with And I Am Here.
Yeah. So And I Am Here is a very different book from Bettina. A very almost polar opposite phase of my life. Definitely still has its hardships, but something that I've grown to know is the steadfast love of my now husband, who is so stable and so gentle and so sweet and helps me heal from all the things that I've experienced. On top of that, we have two bright, young littles. My son is 3 and my daughter will be 2 next week. So 15-month age gap. It's been really fun. But being able to write about my postpartum seasons and how trying they were, being able to write about what a mom looks like for me and what being a mom looks like for me. Being able to write about a healthy marriage, being able to write about new mental health diagnosis. I was diagnosed bipolar. And so being able to process that and break free from the stigma and be able to understand, okay, I have this new diagnosis. Does it really define who I am? Does it change who I am? Am I still just Anna? Am I still everything that I've built and everything that I continue to try to be?
It's just wonderful. How did you meet your husband?
So my husband is also a poet. When I was working on self-publishing my first book, Bettina, I had sat down with a friend and she's a writer as well. And we were brainstorming and I said, I really don't know how to go about this process. I have no idea what I'm doing. And she goes, oh, well, I have a friend. He lives in New York and he's written some books. Let me give you his number. And of course I was overjoyed and because, oh my gosh, it's an author and he's going to talk to me and give me advice. And so we got connected and it was very, very professional. And he came to Michigan to visit some of his friends and we sat down at a restaurant and talked for 4 hours. And we've never stopped talking since. It's just been a whirlwind of fun and it's definitely had its struggles. Nothing is perfect, but this has been such a redeeming season and such a redeeming relationship for me.
Was that prayer that God answered?
Yep, absolutely.
Just that makes me so happy that you guys found that. So before trying to release Bettina, had you ever thought that you would be a writer?
Not necessarily, no. I had done a couple open mics and I had shared some of my work, but I never expected it to be like this. I had never expected to be on a podcast. I had never expected to have 2 books and hopefully more. I had a very dear friend who worked with me at the dairy and she's wonderful. And she had sent me a text before I had written either one and said, I had a dream that you're going to be a writer and you are going to have all these books and you are going to be so helpful to so many people. And I went, no, I'm not. That's silly. And it's been a journey, but it's been so cool.
Yeah. So when you started making those steps, like what fully prompted it? Was it that dream? Was it that you realized that you had something that was both healing for you and could help others?
Yes. Yep. I had helped one of my friends out of a domestic violence relationship. And it was to the point where I was saying all these things to her and it's like, I'm saying all these things, but I also wrote them in a poem. How can I get this out to more people? Because she's not the only one. How can I produce something that really shares my heart and shares what I've been through and genuinely helps other people, regardless of what stage they're in even if it's not necessarily them who's going through it, maybe their caregiver or somebody close to them is going through it. And so it's just, sorry.
No, it's important, and it's powerful. It's just a reminder that, like, when you sit down and you write out your thoughts, that, like, writing, we talk a lot on the podcast with writers specifically about how the process is so, like, insular, and you're sitting in your corner with your computer or your notebook, and you're kind of like scooping your own brains out onto the page, and like that the community isn't in the act of writing, but in like what goes around it, and the ability to write something that helps others is just like a powerful gift. And it makes writing so much more than like the sum of its parts, right?
Yeah.
This isn't just poems. And that's not to say that like they're just poems, but it's not just a book of words. It's something that heals others and healed you and helps others and helped you. And like long after you're gone, there will be people who have this book, and they're going to give it to somebody who needs to hear those words.
Yep.
And they're either going to help themselves or they're going to help someone else.
Yep.
And that's big. So like sitting down with it and taking stock of what you've done is heavy sometimes, and like a lot to process.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I don't know. I really, really appreciate both of these books being here and coming into our lives, and you explore these themes. Have you ever thought about, let me back up a little bit. So your work with the Sepulpa Children's Home?
Sand Springs.
Yep. Sorry.
Yep.
So your work with the Sand Springs Children's Home, am I correct? That's kind of similar to like the Oklahoma Baptist homes, like children in difficult situations, living with another family to kind of help them through those transitions. How has that kind of impacted your writing?
I'm much more of a mom now than I have ever been. And being a mom to not only littles, but a mom to teenagers. I'm not very old myself. I'm almost 30. So it's been a journey of growth, not only in maturing myself, but also learning more about trauma in children and in teenagers and how that affects them and how it portrays itself. How it's impacted my writing has been, I've gotten softer in what I say. It doesn't dilute what I say. It's just, I'm a lot more gentle. Things come out and they're not as pricking. There's a poem in Patina about how not everything has to prick like a cactus and be so rough and abrasive, and some things can be said softly. And this job has really helped me understand what that means.
I love that. Do you guide your teens through writing to process their own feelings? Or
Yes. Yeah, we have quite a few journalers and songwriters and poets on campus. So they're learning how to express what they've been through and all the feelings that they have on top of going into therapy. There's a lot of healthy outlets that they explore that we try to really encourage.
I love that. So pulling it back into more of like this conversation of being a writer. So your primary job is working with these teens, but then you say, I am a full-time writer. And like, so walk me through like your experience, particularly moving into the Tulsa area, like developing a writing community and a writing habit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We've lived here about 3 years, and I'd say my community in Tulsa writing has only started a couple months ago. We moved down here. The job was very intensive. I became pregnant with my daughter, went through a really rough postpartum, and it just took some time away from what I was able to give. But being able to step back into this role and recognize myself as a writer again, instead of just a wife and a mom and all the things that I've wanted to be, but in addition to that, becoming a writer and owning it has been really significant for me the past couple months, being able to go to book fairs and being able to come on a podcast and being able to talk to more people here who don't know me, and being able to connect with them has been really life-giving.
Love that. What kind of fairs have you gotten to be at?
So I just went to the Spotlight Theater's book fair, and that was my very first event like that. And we had a great turnout. We had 140 people come through.
That's awesome.
Met a lot of wonderful, wonderful writers and wonderful people. Made a lot of good connections there. So
that's awesome. It's like the Tulsa writing community is just like once people are aware that you're there, it's like, boom, you've unlocked like this whole big group of friends that you didn't realize. And like, everybody's so incredibly supportive, and they're all like, we get a lot of people that shop the local shelf, and they're like, ooh, I like to check out what local people, and they're just unrelated. But 9 times out of 10, if somebody's over at the shelf, it's because they know someone else on here, and they probably are also on this shelf. And then they're like buying their friend's book. And it's like, you know, when you go to things like the Spotlight Author Fair, or you head to like Magic City Books or the Tulsa Women's Expo this weekend, it's like, hey, watch my booth. I'm going to go spend every dollar that I made at this fair on buying other books from all my friends. And it's like such a cool community to be a part of, that just everybody is rooting for everybody else's success. And
absolutely.
And that's really, really powerful. Have you had an opportunity since then to connect with like other poets in Tulsa? Or?
Yes. Yeah. I've gotten coffee with another poet. She's very sweet. Her name is Kelly Morris. She's written a couple really, really amazing books. So I'd highly recommend her as well. But being able to connect with her, I'm going to be going to Lit Fest in April.
Yay!
So I'll also be there. You can find me.
That's so wonderful.
Yeah.
Do you have any collections you're thinking of putting together soon? Or I know And I Am Here came out in 2025.
Yes.
So it's pretty fresh. Are you going to let that one ride for a while, or?
I have totes and totes of childhood crafts and keepsakes that I am in the process of going through. I'm working on a project, and I have been brainstorming this for a couple years now, of creating different art pieces with the art that I've made and with some of the keepsakes, like my hospital bracelet from when I was a baby and things like that, and taking photography of them and then putting poems to them as well, and making almost like a coffee table book of my childhood and nostalgia and what it means to grow up, but also retain childhood wonder.
That sounds so wonderful. I love that. I wanted to talk to you about the art for your books, because they've got photos of you on them.
Yes.
What was the selection process and the cover design process like for you?
I'm very picky when it comes to my covers. Patina's cover was taken up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I was on a trip with another gal, and we were at the highest point of Marquette in Lake Superior. and we were just standing out on the rocks, and I was lost in my thoughts and thinking about everything. And it was the year that I had published Patina, so I was still doing a lot of heavy processing, and my friend happened to notice me and took that picture. I am here. I was up at a friend's house in Michigan, and it was a very sweet season. And I was just playing with my son. And it was, somebody took the time to capture that. Somebody valued that enough to capture that. And it's been really special to me ever since. So being able to look at the poems as a whole, and what single image can describe all of them well. It's hard, but I think I found the right ones.
That's just such a special picture, and I know when he's older, he's gonna look at that and be like, my mom loves me so much. And that's there forever. Just also a beautiful reminder, like, take pictures of your friends, especially your mom friends, because like I was going through photos from 2016 when I had my first kid, and like the first 3 months of photos that I have with me with them, it's a selfie.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, why didn't anybody like take the phone out of my hand and take a photo of me with my kid?
Yeah.
I have like one that was my sister. I was at my lunch break and I had him on my chest and he was practicing his head control.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's the first picture that I have of like me holding my kid, candid and not like in the hospital giving birth. And I'm like, man, people need to take more pictures of the people they love with other people they love.
Yes.
And so how special that you've got two of them that you got to memorialize and make permanent and share. So in this time from when you published Patina to now, what has been the most surprising thing about writing or the writing community for you?
Writing has become a lot more spontaneous. I can't always just make it happen. Usually it happens at 3 or 4 a.m. and it's because I've been kept up and something's been bugging me and I need to get it out. And I do. And that's really when I have the most time anyway. But
as a mom.
Yes, as a mom. But it's become, like I said before, it's become a lot softer and a lot more open. Being able to learn about myself, about others. I'm also in school for psychology, so being able to really understand how people work, how their minds work, especially from trauma, has really impacted how I choose to present being helpful to them. It's like, okay, how are they going to take this? How are they going to internalize this? Is this my goal? In the writing community, I wasn't doing a very good job looking for it, but it's definitely there. And as you were saying, once you're in it, oh my goodness.
You're in it.
Yeah. It's great.
I love that. And I hope that it continues to be a source of like inspiration and comfort and excitement. And, you know, I've been around it, in orbit for years, and it has only gotten better. Mm-hmm. So I think it will continue to be better for you too. And I'm excited to read what you put out next, and excited to watch all of your growth, and I'm glad you're here.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for listening to Paper Girl. You can find Anna Renee's poetry books Patina and I Am Here on sale at Meadow Market Books. You can also find her on Instagram at _Renee Poet, where you can pick up a copy of her book if you're not able to make it down to Meadow Market. Thanks again for listening. This has been Paper Girl.